The last location of this battle is the castle of the Demon King. And this time the hero is surprised if the sick bastard sitting on the throne is the Demon King. An unknown terrifying energy emanated from him, and his level was beyond the control of ordinary human eyes. The Lord is surprised that the guy got to this place, being just a pathetic little man, and in honor of this, the demon gives a gift to the intruder, and orders his army to kill the insolent. But the red-haired man gladly accepts this challenge, after which he rushes at the infernal monsters. He calls for a pair of revolvers and begins his furious attack, the monsters literally scattered from the amplified shots. The guy jumps up and uses one of his skills accelerating the explosion. Surprisingly, the Lord of Darkness had a lot more subordinates than the boy expected. At the same time, he decides to change his strategy, and uses the bullet dance skill. After most of the army was defeated, the guy turns his head and suddenly a powerful blow is struck at him, removing his mighty paws from the place of impact. The monster does not observe a bloody puddle, but it's too late to regret the miss. The monster turned out to be too slow. After that a shot rang out in the castle. The ruler of hell continued to turn grey on his rightful throne without blinking an eye. But now that all his troops were defeated, it was his turn to go on stage. He rises from the throne and raises his scythe above him, after which the sky was filled with darkness and darkness. At the moment, the monster jumped off the spot and inflicted its attack. If the guy managed to dodge the remote attack, it turned out to be much faster than he expected. The demon's attack flew past, but its consequences were terrifying, and the guy realizes that if this attack hit the target, he would probably die. The red-haired man was distracted in vain during this deadly duel, and the king of hell instantly shortened the distance and struck the next blow, but the boy managed to block it. From such a terrifying force, he was thrown back a short distance, and before he knew it, the next attack flew into him. The excited boy manages to avoid the attack and begins to return fire from his guns. But for a demonic creature such an attack is hilarious, because he does not even feel it, because his barrier absorbs these shots. According to known information, the hero knew that the dark stone in the forehead of the king of hell is the only vulnerable place, but in order to find out, he will have to break through this barrier with any valuable. The guy continues to shoot revolvers, and then the monster is tired of this useless performance, and he is determined to put the upstart in place and show the difference in their strength. With these words, he creates 4 mystical spheres and directs them at the poor guy. But he is in no hurry to give up and tries his best to dodge the balls chasing him. But soon one of the spheres overtakes him. At the same time, his golden pistols are on the ground. The demon himself warns the poor man, no matter how much he tries, the attacks of such a nonentity will never defeat the ruler of these lands. However, the red-haired man only grins after hearing such an audacious statement, and then taking out another weapon, he decides to check whether nothing from his arsenal can really hurt the Demon King. Taking aim, he makes a killer shot and releases a bullet of moonlight directly into the stone in the forehead of the demon. At the same time, the monster winces and the barrier around him is covered with cracks. In anger, the ruler of hell wishes the youngster death and puts an army of shadows on him, and if everything continues like this, then the red-haired boy will be devoured by gloomy shadows. But once they have captured him, he has no choice but to continue firing at the target and risk his life. But first he should destroy this pierced stone, and concentrating in pitch darkness, he makes a few more shots and hits right on target. The Demon King could not be seen because of the dust that had risen, but his angry words could be clearly heard. Now the monster decided to finally end this bug. And the yellow-eyed hero agrees with this, and uses his most powerful ability, the Verdict of Dawn. The barrier shatters and the cry of the strongest creature is heard. His stone in the forehead was damaged, and because of this, the red-haired boy was freed from the enveloping fog. The furious monster did not believe in what was happening, because how could a pathetic person do something like that? The guy does not waste time explaining, and grabbing his revolvers rushes to the infernal monster. The red-haired man flew up to the forehead of the ruler of hell, and before making the final shot asked the monster if he can imagine how many hours the guy spent in the world of 2-0. But the puzzled monster did not understand the essence of the question, and shortly after that a shot is heard. The guy can't wait to see the finale of this story. The guy lands on the ground, and suddenly a monster's silhouette appears behind him. However, he expected something like this, and despite it, he fires another shot, after which the system notifies the hero that the game is over. The guy notices that playing as a magician shooter in the world of version 2.0 was very entertaining. He did not expect that the magical abilities would turn out so well. Now the world in which he will play versions 3.0, and the character will be a magician. But soon the guy realizes that playing for an ordinary magician will be boring and then decides to create a special magician with the help of a karma system. This is a system in which the player receives fines in exchange for advantages. Many do not use this mechanic because of possible risks. But with penalty characteristics, he will be able to get additional statistics. For example, fines such as insomnia, dependence on mana, chronic migraine, or imminent death will be imposed, but this does not bother the magician if he can get the strongest magician as a substitute, even though his character will be too sick, because it's just a game character. Suddenly he is awakened from sleep. The last thing he remembers is the loading screen at the beginning of the game, and as soon as the loading was completed, jets of black light poured out, after which he lost consciousness from a powerful attraction. This something sucked him inside. But now it's not about that. A bearded man picks up a black-haired boy from the bunk, and swinging asks how long the kid is going to sleep. After that, he hits the guy under the name Lennox. The boy is in such a pathetic situation, which is only possible because now he has become a weak character, which he himself created. The bearded man calls the youngster a son of a bitch, because it's time to work for a long time, and the black-haired man is still sleeping. Does he really need to be beaten further so that he comes to his senses? After another beating, the supervisor orders the pathetic boy to move and start assembling parts in the workshop. All the other workers mock the loser. It was an amazing sight for their eyes, and they understand that one of the beautiful days the youngster may well be beaten to death. But Li Wang does not agree with the opinion of his comrades, but he is in no hurry to stand up for the boy. At this moment, the supervisor looks into the room again, and orders the idlers to get to work, and they quickly run for their jobs. The black-haired man realizes that his character's name is Lennox, but he still can't believe that he is stuck in this insignificant body. It had been 3 days since he had woken up in this place that looked like some kind of factory. However, he still did not understand much, but surprisingly the black-haired man quickly got used to the routine here. Now he wakes up before sunrise and works until he falls down from fatigue. Before going to bed he is given a bowl of rice porridge, although it looks more like garbage waste. Even if he tries to exchange a couple of phrases with other employees, they don't really answer, partly because they are busy working under the supervision of the boss, but to a large extent they ignore him, because they perceive the guy for a dead man. Partly they are right. With such a weak body, he won't be able to hold out for a couple of days in such a place. At this moment, the boss turns to Lennox. He demands that the worthless bastard move and continue his work. However, the boy began to cough violently, and then the excited supervisor demands that Li Wang remove this dead man as soon as possible, otherwise only his eyes are sore. The boy himself is glad that he put willpower into this character, otherwise he would not have been able to keep his mind in this critical situation. The head finally kicks the boy and demands that he does not get in the way and goes to die somewhere else. Although the black-haired man is aware that such a number of diseases are killing him, but still, despite this, his body has a huge magical potential, and if he manages to awaken this sleeping force, he will clearly be able to escape from this hellish place. But Lennox is not sure if he should do it. Well, at least before that he should get a diagram of this place. It shouldn't be difficult for him, because no one has ever paid attention to him. Soon, going out into the corridor, he notices a slightly open door from which rays of light are streaming, and in it the black-haired one eavesdrops on the conversation of the elders. They complain about the people who were sent here to work, because they are very slow. But this is not so important, because if you beat them, they immediately begin to work normally. The guys are in a hurry to solve another issue. Their bosses are hurrying them a lot with work, and it is not clear what the members of the union are going to do with this product. However, a colleague is interrupted by a friend. He is surprised that he does not know this, because the union sells the shredder being manufactured to a dark magician. The black-haired man is glad, because judging by their conversation, magic still exists in this world, but he still does not know how to use it, and it is not clear what he should do. At the same time, at this moment, one of the guys gets a new vape, and although he does not know the side effects, but they need it to keep the rest of the bastards in check, because the new filter in this enhancing liquid reduces toxicity, and it also contains mana. This is exactly what the poor man was looking for, mana in this unknown world. Suddenly, a force unknown to him enveloped his weakened body. He felt as if his body was pierced by an electric current, and something exploded inside. It was the sixth sense, surpassing all the others, or else the third eye, his alter ego. He learned a new feeling that he could not have suspected until now. This energy has always flowed in this world, but the black-haired man realized it only now. the fundamental force shaping this world and the impulse determining existence. The mana circulating in the air penetrated into his body with every breath. This force is both familiar and alien. Covering himself with a blanket, he ponders his plan. Most likely the amount of mana he received should be enough for him to escape. According to the overheard conversation, it can be understood that the representative of the Union will arrive here in 2 days, which means that the security will be weaker on this day. However, he is not sure that he can escape alone without attracting someone else's attention, but soon he gets a great idea. He uses a small amount of mana on his forehead, and at the same moment it feels like the poor guy has a fever, and if used correctly, it will look like the guy will die soon, and that's when he will be able to stay alone. At night, one of the subordinates knocks on the door to the supervisor. He delivered him a box with a vape, and he, in gratitude for the work done, offers the boy to take one for himself, but he refuses such a reward, but the man insists, because Li Wang often helped him out. At the same time, the guy has no choice and he accepts the gift. Also, the supervisor remembers one more thing and turns to the guy for help. An elderly man noticed today that the loser Lennox looked like he was going to die soon and asks to get rid of the weak kid, because if a member of the union sees such an employee, then they are fucked. Not knowing what to say, Li Wang accepts the order. The next morning, a signal is heard in the room about the beginning of the working day, and everyone slowly began to gather, but their eyes were attracted by the lying Lennox. Looking at him, it was clear that the loser's temperature had risen. Apparently his time had come. The cowlegs don't even know what to do with this corpse. They are sure that the guy will die by dinner, and no one present wants to touch this body. In the depths of his soul, the black-haired man rejoiced about his victory, because his plan was a success. However, at this moment, Li Wang approaches the guys and demands to be let through. At the same time, the topic of conversation changed, and now all the employees decided that the senior was going to get rid of the black-haired one. But this does not surprise them, because the kid lying in such a state only harms the team. But such conversations excite Lennox, because this was not part of his plans. A strong hand grabs the guy by the shoulder and turns him, then hands him a vape and explains that it is a stimulant that temporarily increases physical strength. He also says that this is a cheap option, but it should be enough in the way ahead for him. When he gets involved, he begins to feel an unusual vitality. It is quite unusual that a cheap stimulant will have such a strong effect. The kid was interested in this guy Li Wang, and now the escape plan is changing. The factory is an underground loading platform. The guys are loading the goods, but the envoy from the union notices that the quantity of goods does not converge, and then he is disappointed in the guys, because they give them significant concessions only because of the trial with the Human Rights Commission, and in return they do not receive any gratitude. The employee bows his head and asks for forgiveness. From now on he promises to try better. The second man at this time was sitting and checking the rest of the documents, but soon his gaze is attracted by a skinny boy. Lennox apologizes and asks for help. He is instructed to deliver the box to the boss's office, but it is closed there, so he hopes that a man with a mustache could help open it. The man is angry, but still agrees to help and takes out his keys, after which he orders the boy to follow him. During the journey, the bald-headed man was very angry, because why exactly now someone asked him to bring this fucking box, and besides, they entrusted this case to such a half-wit. Opening the door, he turned his back to the black-haired man, and it was a huge mistake. Lennox uses the discharge and knocks out the Aborzeshi man. With difficulty, but he succeeded. Soon he picks up the keys from the floor and notices the presence of car keys on the bunch, but before he goes further, he needs to find more vape. However, it does not seem so easy to him. After examining numerous boxes, the black-haired man finds a gun. But the search does not end there. Soon he stumbles upon the desired thing with all his soul. Sitting on the couch, he starts smoking. The guy knew that this is an amazing thing, but so much? The guy is going to make another thrust, but suddenly he is interrupted by a sound from the corridor. Passing by his office, the boss smelled the smell of vape. He does not understand what kind of impudent person dared to sit quietly here during working hours, and the boss gets angry and enters the room. After opening the door, he notices Mark on the floor. Suddenly a guy jumps out at him and attacks with the help of a skilled discharge, but the warden instinctively managed to dodge. He did not understand who could attack him with magic, and besides, in his own office, after looking closely at the attacker, he recognized Lennox with great surprise. The guy himself was very puzzled, because there is not enough magic for another discharge, and now he is in a desperate situation. Now the boss is going to punish the scoundrel for such impudence. However, Any fists are useless against a large trunk, and at the same second the formidable warden raises his hands and becomes an obedient dog. The black-haired man orders the old man to be silent, but he continues to speak and justify all his cruel actions. However, Lennox knew that he could not trust such a rotten person, but he was not sure that he was ready to kill a living person. Suddenly, someone's voice is heard near the door, calling the boss. At the same time, there is no time to think, and the worried old man tells the kid in a quiet voice that he will keep his promise, and pointing to the door explains that it leads to an underground parking lot. There he can go outside. This is his only chance to get out before that guy comes in. But despite this, the black-haired boy was still somnolent. At the same time, the red-haired man, not waiting for the old man's answer, decides to open the door to the office. Because everyone is looking for the boss and looking into it, he is surprised. At the same time, a red car drives up to the gate, and the guard doubles where Mark was going so early. But Mark wasn't driving. Pointing the barrel at the man, the guy demanded that he open the gate for him right away. The dumbfounded security guard unquestioningly fulfills the fugitive's demand, and now the black-haired man can leave. Suddenly, some kind of signal is given on the radio, but it was difficult to hear the words. She began to mess up very badly at the wrong time. At the same time, the red-haired man angrily orders to immediately block all exits. The trembling man reached for the red button, saying that the radio was broken, but raising his head again, he saw his running end. Failing to pray for mercy, the booth is filled with scarlet blood. Lennox was able to overcome feelings of guilt and fear. His characteristics such as stable psyche, self-control and rationality successfully suppresses these unnecessary emotions and allows him to remain sane. Soon another gate appears on his way, but then he decides to take a chance and break through the gate at full speed. He really managed to escape. Composure that increases in an extreme situation is undoubtedly a magician's talent. A night city, and there is a night showdown in it. An unknown guy in a hood is being chased, but there is glass in front of him, and he has to jump off a skyscraper at a run. The guards stop, and one of them assumes that this sick bastard could not survive jumping from such a height, but the commander orders to look for him until the guys find the body. A magical engineering city of the Balkans, a black-haired guy calmly enters civilization, but he is shocked, because the environment is absolutely different from the world of 2.0. Everything around contains a bit of mana. The energy felt on the streets of the city is similar to that at the factory. Apparently, a huge amount of mana has been invested in maintaining this world. Suddenly the kid gets sick. Most likely he overextended himself during the escape. At the same time he thinks about using vape, but he stops his withdrawal, because there is not much left, so you need to take it only in emergency situations. To begin with, Lennox decides to find a place to relax in this city. The boy stays at a hotel. He has to spend an hour of his time on everything he has done. In the past, someone was following him, but in a twofold case he abandoned the car and now he can afford to rest. With these thoughts he falls in the corridor, never reaching the bed. Soon he wakes up from a feeling of intense thirst, going to the mini-bar and takes a can of beer from there. After a sip, he abruptly loses his balance and falls at the bedside table. He is very sick. The black-haired man had a feeling as if his head would fall in half. Looking at his hands, he realized that apparently this is a side effect of vaping. Even so, if he wants to move forward, he has no choice but to rely on such stimulants. At this moment, a terrible sound is heard in the room. It was the rumbling of his stomach. Now he is also hungry. Well, this is not surprising, because the guy has not eaten for more than 12 hours. Soon he opens the first canned food he comes across and starts eating. Meanwhile the phone in front of him starts ringing and Lennox is notified. 2 hours are left before the end of his stay and the young man is asked if he wants to extend the lease. He's going to say yes, but after hearing that these disgusting canned goods make up 10% of the stay, he quickly changed his mind. And besides, if you pay for an overnight stay in a hotel, he will have only a trifle, so he needs more money, and before leaving the room, he decides to put himself in order. After taking a shower, he cuts his hair short. Now someone recognizes him in his throat. In the morning, sitting on the street, he is considering a plan for the following actions. Most likely he will not be able to get money legally, because the black-haired man does not have any documents. He is illegal in this world. Soon find the best way out of this situation, namely, he decides to beat up bandits and steal their money, because this should not create problems for him in the future. After thinking it over, he decides to start looking for his first victim, concentrating mana in his ears, he began listening to hundreds of different conversations, and soon in one of the alleys he found a suitable individual who was discussing the stolen money. Having found the right victim, he decides to follow, but suddenly the kid gets sick. It's all because of his weak body. Then he takes out a stimulator and takes a deep breath. Now he's ready to fight and earn some money. A kid flies into one of the garbage cans. 2 thugs stood over him and demanded money from him, which, according to him, he lost, and the guys have no choice but to sell him in parts for the missing amount.